The NDC has held a press conference in which they spoke about the Chief Justice, and they also supported Dr. Dominic Ayine. Let's go and hear the 4-minute clip of Johnson Asiedu Nketia, what he said, and then we'll come to the touch screen. So here is Johnson Asiedu Nketia speaking at the press conference yesterday.
In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, we wish to state that even as the action taken against Dr. Ayine is unjustified, it is but a symptom of a larger problem. It is no coincidence that virtually all the lawyers who have been reported to the disciplinary committee of the General Legal Council by the Chief Justice, Justice Kwesi Anim-Yeboah, in recent times are aligned to the NDC. What is the Chief Justice's personal interest in the punishment of NDC-affiliated lawyers that he is so keen to initiate unwarranted actions against them? We dare say that such treatment will not be meted out to lawyers who are allied to the MPP for reasons best known to the Chief Justice himself. After the 2013 election petition verdict was delivered by the Supreme Court, lawyer Sam Okujeto, at a symposium organized by the Dankwa Institute, took some of the justices of the Supreme Court to the cleaners and gave his own interpretation of the judgment, contrary to what the court had determined. Also recently, when the High Court, Human Rights Division presided by Justice Gifty Ado, ruled against the General Legal Council in an application brought by lawyer Francis Sosu, lawyer Sam Okujeto once again went to town, attacking and questioning the capacity of the judge who quashed the decisions of the disciplinary committee of the General Legal Council, of which he is a member. Lawyer Sam Okujeto is also a leading member of the New Patriotic Party and the Council of State. Why was he not referred to the General Legal Council for disciplinary action by the current Chief Justice, Justice Kwesi Anim-Yeboah? What about the several MPP-affiliated lawyers, including a lawyer on record who made many prejudicial comments and sought to seduce the Supreme Court during the hearing of the 2020 election petition? The respect accorded the judiciary is one that ought to be earned due to the ability of members of that important arm of government to show equanimity, balance, and fairness to all manner of persons, irrespective of their political or ethnic coloration. That respect cannot be run down the throats of anyone through acts of suppression and brazen acts of intimidation. The notion that the judicial arm of government is beyond reproach is but a fantasy which cannot be sustained. The same is utterly inimical to democratic practice and must not be countenanced. If these actions by the Chief Justice are intended to browbeat the NDC and its members and prevent us from stating our views on the performance of the judiciary, we hereby state categorically that they will not succeed. We will not be intimidated. We as a party will continue to defend the cause of freedom and of right in this country. We do not strive to put in place the building blocks of a sustainable democracy only to allow judicial tyranny to rear its ugly head. And we will never be intimidated by partisan occupants of state institutions, no matter the cost.
Okay, so that's Johnson Asiedu Nketia speaking there at the NDC press conference. So we have isolated it in a few ways, and we have some information for the General Secretary of the party, some analytical information. The watchword tonight, the operative principle tonight that we are applying in analyzing these statements of Johnson Asiedu Nketia and the NDC is to remind them of the equitable maxim that he who comes to equity must come with clean hands. And for those of you who are lawyers, you know that equitable remedy is different from legal remedy. So let me just explain. So when you go to court or when there's any legal issue and you need remedies, there are two ways in which the court gives you remedy. The remedy that is in the book. So they write that if a person steals something, he should give you something. If a person takes your land, he should compensate you. That's a remedy by law that is there. So that's legal remedy. When we talk about equitable remedy, remedy from equity, it is a remedy that arises out of natural justice, that also arises out of the judge's discretion, and also arises out of case law. So it's not really written down, but it is a remedy that you can demand. What Asiedu Nketia is doing is that he's pleading to equitable remedies, because he's saying that, Mr. Chief Justice, in 2020, in 2012 election petition, or 2013 election petition, you had this to say. Why have you changed what you are saying now? Please be fair. That's what Asiedu Nketia is saying. He's pleading to equity. If he's coming to equity, he must come with clean hands. We'll show you why his hands in coming to equity may not be clean tonight. Now, though, let's do justice to the impartiality part of our responsibility to show you what Asiedu Nketia actually told the media. So let's come to this one, bias of the Chief Justice. Asiedu Nketia then went on to attack the credibility of the Chief Justice. Now, these are our own words. These words here are our words. We've not yet started quoting Asiedu Nketia here. So let's begin the quotation. Okay, ladies and gentlemen of the media, the way in which the Supreme Court, in the hearing of the 2020 election petition, continuously shielded the chairperson of the Electoral Commission, Mrs. Gina Dukwe-Mensah, from scrutiny and accountability has been the subject of critical commentary by many people. He goes on, indeed, much of the criticism has been from the people who are in no way associated with the NDC. We must say we are also struck by how positions that the current Chief Justice took in the 2012 election petition are completely opposite to his positions in the 2020 election petition. Let me read you a few sentences from Justices of the Supreme Court as he then was, Eni Yeboah, when he dismissed in respect of a ruling concerning whether the Electoral Commission should be ordered to produce certain documents. So that's where Asiedu Nketia begins the conversation. Now, he's taking us back to election 2012. He's sort of justifying and giving evidence of his conclusions that Justice Eni Yeboah is biased one way or the other. So he's going to take two situations and analyze them and show us the similarity of the two situations. When you want to allege bias in the equation, the constant should be the nature of the situation. The variable should be the way in which the person responds to the situation. If the variation in the variable is significant, then we can talk about double standards. I believe that's what he set out to do in a scientific manner. So he picks election petition 1 and election petition 2. He's looking at the way that the Chief Justice, Supreme Court judge, as he then was, wrote, the things he wrote relating to the Electoral Commission in petition 1, and the things he wrote relating to the Electoral Commission in petition 2. Keep it in mind, we're saying that we are doing this on the basis of the equity maxim, he who comes to equity must come with clean hands. So let's move on. He says, let me read you some sentences of Eni Yeboah when he dissented in the respect of the ruling concerning whether the Electoral Commission should be ordered to produce documents or not. He said, quote, in a serious matter in which the mandate of the entire voters of this country is being questioned through the judicial process, one expected the second respondent, as the sole body responsible for the conduct of elections, to have exhibited utmost degree of candor to assist the court in arriving at the truth. Great. Surprisingly, this is Justice Eni Yeboah talking, being quoted by Asiedu Nketia. Surprisingly, he says, the second respondent, Electoral Commission, opted for filing no pink sheets, leaving this court unassisted, and thereby placing reliance only on the pink sheets supplied to the agents of the petitioners at the various polling stations. Yeah, there we go. Asiedu Nketia has so soon forgotten about his own dereliction of duty. He is quoting Justice Eni Yeboah, reminding him that the petitioners in that day, they had their own pink sheets supplied to them at the polling station. The petitioners of election petition 1 had their own pink sheets. They brought the pink sheets to the court. Justice Eni Yeboah is complaining that the petitioners having brought their pink sheets, the Electoral Commission didn't have their pink sheets. So the court was compelled to rely only on the pink sheets of the petitioners. If the petitioners didn't have the pink sheets, what would the court have done? Asiedu Nketia has just walked out of an election petition that he refused to produce a single pink sheet. He didn't have it. He still doesn't have it. And he comes to quote Justice Eni Yeboah, trying to show bias, and he doesn't even see that reading this from Justice Eni Yeboah, it's an assault on his competence. I am shocked that Asiedu Nketia, the General Secretary of the big party, read Justice Eni Yeboah here, and he didn't even notice. Maybe his people noticed, they were too afraid to tell him. Maybe they noticed they were embarrassed to tell him. He doesn't even notice that in reading Justice Eni Yeboah and trying to quote him, he's reminding us of his own folly. He didn't have his pink sheet, and he's quoting Eni Yeboah saying that the petitioners had their pink sheet, so we relied on it. And he is quoting that to show bias. You see, that is what happens when leaders reduce their horizon to a single street. If you reduce your horizon to a single street without seeing the interchange, that's what will happen. If you don't see the myriad of streets on the interchange, you don't see it, you just see a single street, that's what will happen. If your agenda is set in a certain way, this is what you will get. You will have small boys like me pointing out to you that what you have read is actually against you. That's what you will get. But there's more that was against him that he didn't even realize. Listen to him. He's quoting Eni Yeboah. Eni Yeboah says, the second respondent Electoral Commission opted for filing no pink sheets, leaving this court unassisted, and thereby placing reliance only on the pink sheets supplied to the agents of the petitioners at the various polling stations in issue. Okay. Now it goes on. Eni Yeboah still being quoted. Why the second respondent elected to deny assistance to a court of law in search of the truth in a monumental case of this nature is beyond my comprehension. This is just Eni Yeboah talking. I think it must be deprecated in view of the constitutional autonomy granted to it to perform such vital functions under the Constitution for the advancement of our democratic governance. This from page 3 of the address. So this is Asiedu Nketia quoting Justice Eni Yeboah. He's quoting Eni Yeboah here. And he's saying that Eni Yeboah has said something wrong, that this is what Eni Yeboah said in the petition in the other one, and this is what he's saying. Eni Yeboah is criticizing the Electoral Commission in that petition that, look, the petitioners have supplied pink sheets. You should also supply the pink sheet so that we can tell whether what the petitioner supplied is correct or wrong. We really cannot deal with that. Even though Eni Yeboah found himself in the minority because the court ruled against the discovery application that the petitioners brought then that compelled the Electoral Commissioner to bring it. That is the Supreme Court authority. The court ruled against it, that where there's evidence of the material, even if it's a duplicate, the court can rely on it. So Eni Yeboah was in the minority. But Asiedu Nketia is saying that Eni Yeboah said the people who applied for the matter, the people who sued that they had been cheated in election, they brought their pink sheets. Electoral Commission, you should bring yours. Okay, come forward to 2021. The people who sued that they had been cheated, did they bring their pink sheets? They didn't bring their pink sheets, so the goalposts are not the same. Eni Yeboah said, look, Electoral Commission, your people have brought their pink sheets. They got the pink sheets from you. You should also bring yours so we can tell that when they say Wale Wale number 1 primary school, Nana Akufo-Addo got 620, John Dramani Mahama got 620. Is it correct from your records? That's what Eni Yeboah is saying. Asiedu Nketia doesn't even see that. You see, this is what I've been talking about. The leaders and general secretaries. This is the kind of thing that I call palm wine talk all the time, and people don't understand. This is it. This is Asiedu Nketia. He's reading the thing. He's forgotten that he's walked out of an election petition without being able to produce a single pink sheet to the people of Ghana. He has not been able to account for the 6 million people that voted for John Mahama. He's still sitting down and talking about other people. This is the problem I have. And that's the problem we should all have with leaders like Asiedu Nketia. What is the point? He doesn't even understand that what he has read is against him. He doesn't get it. What is happening? I'll come and tell you the political story behind what he did. But this is it. I'm sad because General Secretary, he doesn't get it all. He doesn't get it at all. He doesn't know that what he has read, it will take a small boy like me to point it out to him. That what you have read is against you. You have walked out of an election. And, okay, so this is important, okay? The petitioners in the first one, and this is for John Asiedu Nketia's understanding, the petitioners in the first petition, based on the law that was available at the time, because they allowed more than one person to petition. This time it's only one person. The petitioners are Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, Dr. Alhaji Mahamudu Bawumia, and Jacob Lamte. These were the three petitioners. Now, the question that we are asking again is that we're looking at the similarities, because Asiedu Nketia is drawing obvious similarities, and he's oblivious to other differences that are germane to the conclusions of Eni Yeboah. There are differences that are germane to Eni Yeboah's conclusion. There are fundamental differences that led Eni Yeboah to the conclusions he made in 2013. Johnson Asiedu Nketia obscures those differences and goes to make a conclusion which is a fallacy. He is making a fallacious conclusion and using that to denigrate the learned Chief Justice. That's what we are against tonight. We are not speaking for the Chief Justice. We are saying that on the face of the document, on the face, that's what I talk about journalism. This is what journalism is about. It's not I catch you. On the face of the document, look at it and read it as a journalist. You will see the contradictions. You don't need camera. I've not seen Asiedu Nketia in how God knows how long. I was not at the press conference. I just took the document and I shared it with my brilliant assistants. And I say, let's isolate it to themes. We sat down yesterday, we were laughing. Because it is so obvious. Look, it's so obvious. That's how our work is. We don't need camera. I don't have to be near him. I don't have to put a recorder near him. I don't need all that. He's put out information. Let's deal with it. So these three men, they were the petitioners in that matter. They, as petitioners, elected to testify. John Dramani Mahama, as petitioner, elected not to testify. That's the difference. One of them, Dr. Alhaji Mahamudu Bawumia, a petitioner, he's a second petitioner, elected to sit in the court and testify. And he showed pink sheets. So Eni Yeboah then comes to the conclusion, the Electoral Commission, you are not helping us. The petitioners have brought pink sheets and they've testified. We need you to contradict that. We need it. Because you are a very important person in this. Asiedu Nketia takes those two words. He doesn't understand the rest. He doesn't make any effort to understand. He doesn't share with his young people so they can analyze and point out to him that, General, be careful. This one is going to expose you. You see what Eni Yeboah says is not really for us. So let's look for something else. That's what he should be doing. He doesn't do that. He just jumps and comes to the gallery and he plays to the gallery. He embarrasses himself. What we are telling him is embarrassing, and he should come and respond. Any NDC person should come and respond and tell us what we are saying is not correct. What Asiedu Nketia did was hogwash. Yeah, it was. It's folly. It's fallacious. Because he has totally misunderstood. He's trying to draw an analogy, and he fails blatantly to justify the analogy. It's a blatant failure of justifying the analogy. So these are the three men. Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, Alhaji Mahamudu Bawumia, Jacob Lamte. These were the men who did the election petition. Okay, let me go to the next one. And then you can narrow it down to Mahamudu Bawumia and Nana Akufo-Addo because they were the presidential candidate. Lamte was chairman of the party. Here's Lamte, may he rest in peace. Now, this is Mahamudu Bawumia. And he went in, sat in the court and delivered something. Maybe they'll show you some videos as I talk if they have it. But this is Mahamudu Bawumia who was in the petition. He was the petitioner and he came to the court. John Dramani Mahama, as the petitioner, did not come to the court. So the point against Asiedu Nketia is that the analogy he draws to chastise the Chief Justice is flawed analogy. It's totally flawed analogy. He must look for something else. We are not speaking in defense of the Chief Justice. We are just speaking, and that's in the background. You can see the court over there. That's him. That's the video I want you to see. This is the petitioner, Alhaji Mahamudu Bawumia, the petitioner in the matter, who sat before the court and spoke. That is him submitting himself to Chachuchi Kata for cross-examination. John Dramani Mahama did not present himself to the court. It presents a different kettle of fish. Please tell Asiedu Nketia that this presents a different kettle of fish. It's a totally different analogy. And he must take us serious and take himself serious. The General Secretary of the National Democratic Congress, please take us serious and take yourself serious. Don't come and publish things that we can look at and see the fallacy of what you are saying. We shouldn't look at anything you have published and see a fallacy. When we look at things you have published, we should learn from it. We should make news out of it. We should learn from the General Secretary. We shouldn't see fallacy. This is a total fallacy. Don't you understand what you were reading? That what you were reading was against the deficit that you demonstrated in leadership at the court, that you went to court, you didn't have results, you still don't have results, you don't have pink sheet, you have nothing. And you are comparing yourself to the petitioners of 2013 who went to court, elected to speak to the court about the matter, and also presented pink sheets. And Eniebo speaks about that or speaks to a matter that relates to that, and you don't even understand it. You think it's an analogy for you. It's an analogy against you, sir. Sir, this is an analogy against you. Sorry. So this is Alhaji Muhammadu Bawumia, and he spoke to the matter. Okay, let's finalize on the Asiedu Nketia matter, and I'll tell you the reason why he's doing what he's doing. Friends of the media, he says, our position on this matter is simple. Dr. Ayini's views about the independence of the judiciary are views he is entitled to in line with his freedom of expression, guaranteed under the 1992 Constitution. He was courteous to the court and kept his language temperate and decent. Asiedu Nketia continues, he stayed within the bounds of professionalism. He was neither scurrilous nor scandalous. For him to be accused by the Chief Justice of disparaging Ghana's judiciary over these tempered and justified comments is not only bizarre and unfortunate, but speaks volumes about the Chief Justice himself. Clearly, the opinion expressed by Dr. Ayini, which we in the NDC share without equivocation, is not actionable and does not violate any rule or professional conduct rules for lawyers. As a matter of fact, Asiedu Nketia says, neither Dr. Ayini nor we in the NDC can be compelled to increase our confidence in the independence of the judiciary, even when the court has not given us any basis or reason to do so. The Chief Justice ought to be reminded that justice emanates from the people and is administered on our behalf. Public confidence in the independence of the judiciary must therefore be earned and not forced on us. Page 4 of Johnson Asiedu Nketia situation. Okay, he talked about selective justice and Okuje, so we're not going to go to that. Okay, so we get the drift. Our case against Asiedu Nketia is that in talking about the Chief Justice's bias, he shot himself in the foot. That what he brought is to remind people that he went to court with nothing. John Dramani Mahama did not agree to sit in front of the court and speak, whereas the other petitioners did. So that the analogy is completely confused. He didn't confuse it. We're still reminding him that Johnson Asiedu Nketia has not been able to account for the 6 million voters of those who voted for John Dramani Mahama. They stood in the sun and voted for Mahama, young people. He doesn't have the election results. So the dereliction of duty is something that should take him out of the general secretary position, and that's where we are going to next in our story. Our gossip story is about that.